Okay, we are doing this. First of all, thank you guys so much for the really amazing response to my video last week about self-publishing and me and self-publishing and why I'm not self-publishing my middle grade novel that went out on submission and did not get any offers, but why I'm considering another route for some of my other projects. And this video is about that route because I think I'm gonna take it. But first, a really quick update in terms of the middle grade stuff. So I think I said this in the last video, but right now with middle grade, or at least as of last week when I filmed that video, I was feeling a little, disheartened would be the word. The things with middle grade are rough right now. Like, sales are down pretty significantly, and it's getting harder and harder to sell a middle grade novel currently. This kind of thing always goes up and down. And I know there will be an upswing again, but I was feeling like, well, I wrote and revised a middle grade novel I'm really proud of. It went on submission, it didn't sell. I'm not feeling particularly motivated right now to start from scratch on a new one. That does bum me out because I just really genuinely love writing middle grade, but it's hard to gather the motivation to work on something that I know very well might be as good as I can possibly make it be, and it still won't sell and no one will ever read it. And that was kind of like what led me to the maybe I should try serialized fiction for one of my other projects, because the idea of getting readers immediately just makes me excited and it makes me want to write. But put a pin in that, we'll come back to it. I did want to give you guys a potentially exciting, good update. I have been talking to my editor at Scholastic, and there might be a more IP kind of project for me, and we're kind of working on it. I sent him a synopsis yesterday, actually, based on some ideas he gave me, which came from the publisher, which is specifically like, here's the kind of thing we're looking for right now. None of this means it will sell. I think if they like the synopsis I wrote, I would still have to develop a proposal, not the full draft. So that's nice. And then it would go to acquisitions, and then we'd see if we'd get an offer. So this is like many steps away from being, a sure thing. But it did give me some hope. And the cool thing is, the idea that he pitched to me is actually, it would be in some ways a little bit of a new thing for me. It's got the animal aspect, but it's not quite like the other animal books I've done with Scholastic. And it's exciting, and I really enjoyed writing the synopsis, and I would love to write this. So fingers crossed, maybe there's hope for me in middle grade right now after all. But that's where that is. And so right now I've sent that to them and they are reviewing it, and we'll just see what happens, and I will keep you guys updated. But now on to serialized fiction. So I was very motivated by all of your responses and comments on that video, and I got a slew of new paid subscribers to my Substack, which, holy cow, thank you guys so much, first of all, for following me over there. Whether you're a paid subscriber or a free subscriber, it was like an amazing influx, and that was really cool to see. And if you don't know, on my Substack, the regular newsletters I write, which I try to do one a week, are always free. The paid stuff right now is for a series called Ask the Editor, where you get access to a Google form and you can submit anything you want, and I will critique it or answer your questions or whatever you want me to do, and it will be published in that Friday's issue. So actually, I spent some time this morning working on this Friday's issue, which got so much juicy stuff in it. I've got a query from last week that the person revised and submitted the revision. I have a short story from last week that the person revised and submitted. I've got a query for like an upmarket adult novel. And then I've got some questions about, can you just tell me some straight up non-reputable literary agencies by name? I think this was a person who came from my video about agents acting badly. And another really good question about someone who is writing their first novel and enjoying the process but can't figure out what genre it is, and that makes them feel like they're a little bit lost. So yeah, lots of good stuff in there, and that will be in this Friday's issue. I will put a link, of course, down below if you want to check that out. But anyway, my idea was that okay, let me start over. First of all, remember Kith? That was my horror novel that I was working on 2 summers ago. This was like a long time ago. It was set in the 90s, and I did a ton of brainstorming in it, and you guys, on the videos I made about it, I would ask specific questions, mostly about horror and like specifically 90s settings for those of you like me who grew up in the 90s. What do you remember? Because I really want it to feel set in 1996. And I've saved all your comments in a Scrivener document, and I've been looking through them again and refreshing my memory on this book. I felt like it was perfect for serialized fiction because I have this like kind of huge backstory and like an actual explanation of this supernatural horror element. I have a cast of characters that I feel like I know very well in terms of like their personalities, their wants, their needs, and their generally what their arcs would be throughout the book. And I have a structure, and then I know the entire thing takes place over the course of 6 weeks with a specific thing happening every Sunday that's part of the supernatural element. And I figured from there I could generally come up with some beats of what I wanted to have happen every week and what I want to reveal to slowly pull out the mystery every week. And that would be enough to go on for me to start writing this thing and publishing it as a serial thing. I do want to stay on Substack for that, so it'll be, I think I would put the first couple of scenes up for free, and then the rest would be behind a paywall, and the paid subscribers who are already getting the Ask the Editor series would also get access to this. The Substack, by the way, the paid stuff is like $5 a month if you're curious. I think I do want to do that. A lot of you mentioned Ream as well as a slightly newer platform for self-publishing serialized fiction in particular, and I did look at the website. It looks very cool. I do want to research it a little bit more, but I did look at their frequently asked questions, and according to them, you can publish your stuff on Ream and elsewhere. They don't like require exclusivity. In both cases, it would be behind a paywall. I'm kind of torn right now about that, and so I guess this is like the next piece of advice I'm looking at from you guys who are more experienced with any area of self-publishing, because this is entirely new to me. Would it be worth it to self-publish this on 2 separate platforms, both of which would be paid? And of course I would make the payment around the same, just so that people could use whichever platform they enjoy more, and also potentially reach a wider audience. Because I'm sure on Ream I would be found by people who aren't on Substack and don't have my YouTube video. Yeah, like they don't watch my YouTube videos, so like a discoverability thing. Or is it just not worth it? And should I just like keep it on one platform and try to grow it there? I don't know. This is all far in the future because I want to write several installments and edit them before I even start putting the first one up. I want to go in with a solid, like several chapters written so that I don't feel frantic and I'm not trying to pound out a chapter every week and it's all rushed and doesn't read well for you guys. So it's going to be a little while before all of this gets set up. But yeah, I would be curious as to your opinion on that. Now, the one thing I have done, well, I have, the Scrivener doc has been open. I've been playing with it every afternoon and just starting to like, just get a little more organized about it and figure out what I want those opening scenes to be. And I've even done like a tiny bit of writing on it, just little snippets here and there that I wanted to get out of my head while they were fresh. But of course, I had to do the first most important thing, I'm being sarcastic, which was to open Canva and attempt to make a cover. Now, I'm going to say this. Being an illustrator, being a designer, those are like serious skills, and I don't have those skills. I mess around in Canva and make like thumbnails and graphics sometimes, but that's it. If I were self-publishing this as a novel, okay, I would never make the cover myself. I would 100% hire someone with experience and education in design to do that for me. Book covers, yeah, not my skill set, right? But I figure I'm not self-publishing a novel. I'm writing serialized fiction. There's no reason to even have a cover, although I'm sure, actually, no, that's not true. Looking at Ream, I could see that people did have like covers for their books. But I just I felt a little more like, well, let me at least give it a shot and see if I can come up with anything. If you guys want to ridicule this cover, that's totally fine with me. I'm not even dead set yet on using it. I just wanted to see what I could do. So what I did first is like I said, this book is set in 1996, but I really genuinely wanted to feel like it was written in the 90s. I don't like even thinking of it as historical fiction, even though I know it is. And the fact that 90s is historical fiction now is something that gives me a lot of feelings. But I wanted it, as I've said many times, for me at this time, I was 16 in 96. This is when I was entering my Stephen King, Dean Koontz phase. From like age 16 to probably 22, I'm not kidding when I say at least 80, maybe even 90% of the books I read in total were written by those two men. I was absolutely obsessed with Stephen King and Dean Koontz. And of course, when I discovered them, both men already had like an insane backlist. They'd been writing for decades. So to me, the memory is getting those like soft, worn paperbacks from the library. And I wanted my horror story, this serialized thing, to have the look of those books that I was obsessed with back then. I wanted to, so I went and looked up several of their books and I moved them over to Canva just for inspiration. I will show you some of them here, like Salem's Lot, Lightning, Holly, Firestarter, Watchers. I don't even think Holly was out back then, but I do really like that cover. Just lots of those books. I put them into Canva and I was like, okay, these have very similar aesthetics. Let me see if I can mimic this. And I, again, really wanted it to have that like worn out paperback look. I wanted it to look old. I want it to look dated. Maybe this is a huge mistake. I don't know, but I wanted to look of the 90s. So here is what I came up with. As you can see, the title is Kith. The tagline is "A family reaps what it sows." We've got ominous skies, a weird light, a house that is partially being consumed by dust. If you look very closely, a small boy walking away, and beneath the house, this meshy stuff. It's not exactly cobwebs, but it's similar. And then, of course, my name. And that's it. That is the cover I'm going with so far. For right now. We'll see. Like I said, I'm still a long way out from actually, like, launching anything. I would love to be able to do it sometime in July or August is kind of the tentative deadline in my head. My goal for it is just not only to share the story over there and get readers and have that help me feel motivated to just write my own fiction, because that's something I am really scrambling to find right now, is that motivation. But also document over here on YouTube and just be very not need to conceal anything about the details of the story from you guys, because if you want to read it, it's out there. There's no spoilers, you know what I mean? So if I get to a point where I'm like halfway through the book and I've just written myself into a plot hole, I can talk about that in full detail here on this channel and work it through. And because you can read the story, so it's not really spoiling anything. And I just find that I would find that interesting to watch another author go through that. So I'm hoping that would make that interesting over here. But anyway, that's the update for right now. And I will keep you guys posted. And if you're interested in following this, please follow me over on Substack if you haven't already. And thank you again for everybody who has. So that's going to be it for this week. I will see you guys next week with another video. Bye.